Hey, top of the morning to you. I'm Michael. Grandkids call me Ruth. Thanks for being on the show this morning. Love to have you here. It's Monday morning, and I think it's June 6th. Is that right? Let's see. Yes, it is. June number 6. So I theoretically haven't been in my studio since the first part of the month. So you know what that means. The first of the month, I always paint something and give it away. And I even try to mail it. It takes a while to get stuff to you. As a matter of fact, some of you are waiting on some little pieces I brought back from the art show, and you're waiting on a pen, some little pens, some of you in the Patreon. Ordered the envelopes, not the right envelopes, ordered had to have something heavier, thicker, labels. It's just been, yeah. And then my life got into the busyness of what I'm doing right now. So, but I'll get it, trust me. June 6th from Colorado, Mickey Perkins says, awesome. Glad you are. My son is right now in the Rocky Mountain National Park, headed across this morning. Actually, it's just 9 o'clock here, so it's just 7 o'clock there in 2 hours. Coming onto the highest paved highway and heading across with his family this morning. So I'm seeing lots of, I haven't forgot your pens, okay? Not pens you write with, but yes, that would be P-E-N, P-I-Ns. So they're laid out, wrong envelope. I'm trying to mail them without, like, honestly, the pens cost me 60 cents each, and I couldn't mail them for $3 each. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get them to you. I may travel like a rich man, but I have friends, and I stay in great places because of friends. All right, we're glad to have you on the show today. Who is we? Got a rat in my pocket. It's me. The only thing I have in my pocket usually is this little Altoid box, and I promise you, let me just say this about this. Let me just jump into the picture here just for a second. Boom, there it is right there. Honestly, this little box, or it doesn't have to be that size. It could be this size, but some small little palette. It doesn't give me great credibility as a watercolor artist, but then maybe it does, because sometimes people will go, wait, you painted that with that? And so that's kind of fun. The other thing is they go, oh, are you just playing around? And I go, I'm never playing around when I'm being a serious artist. But what it does is it gives people, it opens the door for me to talk and build community and talk about, what do you do creative? What's your hobby? And they go, well, I don't know. One of my favorite paintings of my own, and this sounds silly to say, but it's been the little bee that I paint. This one right here. I think I have one of them down here. I'm 49 or 50, I think, on my bee count. This bee I painted the other day for a dear friend of mine here in town, and I used this same little caption. There's the bottom of my teacup. Okay, boop. And this I've given this out. Yeah, her name is Betsy, and Betsy and her husband run a private prep school here in Charlotte. I do some marketing work for them from time to time, but I always take her a little watercolor of some sort. One day I painted something out of her garden, and she had a little grandson that said cucumbers, and I thought it was the cutest thing. And so I interviewed them at first without knowing it was her little granddaughter that said it. And she goes, I said, what do you like about the garden? And these little kids are standing there. The plants are taller than they are. And she goes, I love cucumbers. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, only the way a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old could say that. And so I just left it in the video. And he told me the other day, he said, we have to do new videos. Thank you. But we go back sometimes and watch the old one because of our granddaughter going, I love cucumbers. And so I always paint her something from the garden, and she has honeybees in her garden, not in hives. They just come in for the flowers. And this is one of my favorites, and I've probably painted this now, I don't know, of my 150, we'll call it 150 till I looked at the numbers. This is 140 here. And I think I painted 7 or 8 more while I was gone, and more than that. But if God had not created the honeybee, there'd be no need for biscuits. How very sad. And so for those of you who don't have a hobby, when people say, oh, I don't have a hobby, I'll say, wow. Okay, great. But and they say, well, you seem diswrought. So I'm diswrought not for me. I'm diswrought for you, because it's kind of sad that you're missing out on learning something new or pushing your brain in a new way. Because as the older we get, the more we have to push our brains to learn things. And so, so this bee has been really strong for me. There's my bee painting screen when I want to paint some bees like this. And I just want to use that as a little template without just taking forever. I've painted over it, but I just put it on there. It's kind of fun. So my point is that this has been this how very sad is just kind of a fun thing. And I'll just be bold with people sometimes. They'll say, I can't believe you carry that around to paint. And I'll go, what do you carry around to do? Do you carry around a book in your back pocket? Do you carry around a pocket knife to whittle? Do you carry around a pencil to sketch with? Do you carry around a pocket full of brass to make a bronze sculpture casting? And they go, no. And I go, okay, this is what I use. And so it's just been such a great tool. I know some of you have expanded in your bug out bags to carry little things like this. Man, with a pen, a brush, and Irma gave me this brush years ago. She sent it to me from this show. It's a whiskey painter brush. It snaps together. Look at that. Man, there's nothing better than just dipping in your tea and painting something. I just love it, love it, love it. And I left several paintings as we traipsed across Charleston. Glad to have you on the show today. It's the 6th. I'm going to paint something. I've got some flotsam and jetsam laying here. You know, the stuff that you bring with me. Middleton Place, a self-guided tour. It was pretty fantastic. I'll just tell you that. From its beginnings and the layout and the gardens and the... it told me I couldn't take photography. I went, we'll see about that. Okay, anyway, not in the houses, but because a lot of the museum piece is all lighting is dim and it's low and it's personal, it's private property, and so they don't want everybody in there photographing everything. Anyway, I'll explain a little bit of that to you. And I did a video. Some of you saw the breaks that I did from there on Facebook, I think, but I also shot some video pieces of that. I know some of you watched the gallery pieces. They're all they'll be underneath this post on Facebook. And we had the opportunity to, why did we go to Charleston? To see dear friends of 30-something years and stay with them for a couple of days. But we went strategically at the first Friday of the month, which is a art gallery crawl, and artists are open, and yeah, I had a donut. I love it. People are putting out wine and cheese and pretzels and chips and fruit bites and little pastry pieces. And then we go into this one gallery and she's got a plate about this big around, and there are just like 6 big old donuts on it. And then maybe you saw the video, and I'm just going like, this is too funny. So I just pick one up and say, wow, now this is what I call an art exhibit that I'm going to eat. And I just started eating it and walked out with it. And they're going like, hey. And I go like, well, you've been sitting here for 30 minutes and you didn't have one. Opportunity. So I hope you saw some of that. Here's what I want to do today. Listen, I want to let you ask me some questions. I got a little time for questions. I woke up thinking I've been painting out of this little lovely thing for the weekend. And I've got all my colors here. I'm going to paint something to give away, but I also want to do something in ink today. I just felt like there was a sketch. There was a pencil sketch, kind of maybe it was charcoal, maybe it was pen and ink back then, maybe a quill pen. It was one of the daughter-in-laws of the Middleton Place. No one ever really knew what the place looked like when they started, after, of course, the Civil War came through and burned down one of the buildings, one of the flanker buildings. He calls them the flankers. The other house they kept for a while. the Union Army stole all the art from that house, and they actually took it back up to Boston. And it changed hands over the hundreds of years. And then it took the Middleton family 10 years negotiating with this one doctor there who had this work to finally somehow, who knows what they had to raise to pay it. I'm thinking like, wait, you stole it in the first place. Your family stole it in the first place. How can you charge somebody for their own artwork? But some of the artwork came back. There was good storytelling. There was poor storytelling. There was storytelling. And so it got us through the history of this place. So we go to look at history. We go to look at art. We go to look at art history. We go to talk with friends, old friends in some cases, who have history with them. All that pulls into my art. And so I got a few questions here. No, I got a few answers if you got some questions. If you have a question for me, fire it up there. I'm going to say, Gene Peterson, thanks for being on the show. And Heather Kuhlman, Gene, you posted to me a couple times. And Gene, if I'm not mistaken, you sent me a note out there that said, wait, was it you that said I got married out there? I was walking across trying to get an idea of where I was. And some quotes were popping up and the sun was hitting the camera between the sun and the rain. Donna Sell Barton, Kim Sheets, Stephen Dockery's off and running. I'll see him tomorrow in this town. Mickey Perkins, Barbara Mayer, Laura Abbott, John Robert Small, thank you, sir, for being on. Jacqueline Goodrich, thanks for being on from the West Coast. Denise Albright, also from way out in the West Coast. And Pat Brooks, always loving having you on. And talked about you again this week of explaining to someone about the book. They asked me if I was still making up sayings and saying things that my dad said. And I said, more than that. Had a friend that kept track of them for a while, and we turned some into a little book. So that was fun to talk about. Lori Stanley, Handelmeyer Henderson, thank you. Pat Lightbody, Victorian Jean Reinhardt Boyd. Always love this because I see your hat and your photo, and you remind me of a friend of mine named Sarah who used to quilt and in the hat, and so I love it. Sue Kane, welcome from the land way down there under in South Australia. Fern Skelly, Virginia Man, Beverly Schmidt, I know you're in Greenville. Let's see, Linda Schleitney, thanks for being on the show. Elaine Barnett, Skeeter Powell, Art, yes, Skeeter. Skeeter, I want to just mention this publicly out loud here. If you guys have not watched Somebody Feed Phil season 5, if you haven't watched Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix, for heaven's sakes, he's zany, he's goofy, he's the silliest man. He doesn't care what people think of him. He makes faces, and I thought, oh, I know somebody like that, and he'll do these crazy things when he loves something or he laughs at himself, and I like his style. He loves food. He's a foodie. Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix. If you haven't been watching it, we've turned a lot of people onto this show. In fact, we sat with our friends and said, watch these 2 episodes or we're not coming back to your house and you're not coming to ours. And so, yeah, I want you to see it and stick with the silliness and the zaniness, but watch for the stories of how he connects with people. So Skeeter, listen to me. In the season 5, he goes to Portland, Maine. And he finds some people in Portland, Skeeter, that are, you'll find the familiarity when you hear this story and when you see this story come to life, and you'll go, oh, I like that guy, without knowing that I like the guy. If you haven't seen it, I want you to watch it, okay? Somebody Feed Phil. All the seasons, there are 5, but this season, season 5, he's in Maine. He usually travels around the world. If you haven't seen it. If you have a question, just put a couple Q's by it, and I'll jump up there in a minute. And figure out if you're asking me anything. You may not have, I know how to answer anything because I just make most of it up anyway. Terry Tardy, good morning to you. I've missed you all. I missed the show. Now it seems so long to the next one. Yeah, when I did shows every day, you guys could just pop in. And so now with my consulting work, and I'm getting ready to go back on the road for a little bit with some video work, which I love telling stories. There's an organization that I did a whole lot for Young Life. I'm getting ready now to go. Young Life has a camp down in Ocala, Florida, which Ocala, I think, is a Native American word. It means big mosquitoes. But I'm going down there to do a story. And so I have to go to Atlanta next Monday for shoot an interview, and then to Jacksonville, then to St. Augustine, then over to Ocala, and then back around to Atlanta. So I'm going to be on the road doing some video shoots. And remember, I lost a camera, so I'm trying to scrape up the funds to put all that back together. It's crazy when you're a one-man goofball. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm working on. I didn't lose a camera. It died. It sounds like you lost one. We should have kept up with it. All right. So anyway, I'll jump up there in a little bit. So glad to have you back on the show, Terry Tardy. I think of you constantly when I open this up and use a little turquoise over in the lid here. Terry Tardy turquoise. That's what I always call it. And all right. So this little palette I've had too for about 12 years now. So, I mean, seriously, God has been good to help me hold on to this, and I really guard it. I'll make sure I pick everything up and I'll put it in my pocket, and I'll have a zipper bag in my little bag that I carry in my bug out bag even. And so, and sometimes I'll just grab these three items and a little short water brush, and I'll take off like this and go, that's all I need. So I'll stick that just in my pocket or in my jacket pocket. I went to church yesterday with them at this old Presbyterian church that's been there since the 1700s in Charleston. And stained glass windows were just fabulous storytelling windows. And I painted in church. Let's see, what did I paint yesterday? I painted something. I didn't have my normal journal with me, but I think I painted something in here. Maybe I didn't. Thought I did. Oh, yeah, there it is. I just painted a little bit right here. I just did this in church. These are my notes from church. I love this. I love this little thing right here. It reminds you of an old dynamite box from the mining days. Yeah, well, the word dunamis, which Paul uses in his writings, was taken from the word dynamite, or our word dynamite comes from dunamis. And so you're going to receive dunamis, the power, the dynamite. All right. I love that. So I had to draw an old dynamite box. All right. Here we go. Steve Catlett, welcome to the show. I think Gene Anthalzer, hello. June Jones, thank you. Jim Jason. Becky Bailey. Well, Becky, good to see you on the show. Cheryl Johnson. Wow. I love it that you guys... there's a Shanoa. Thank you for being on the show. I hadn't seen your name in a while. Jennifer Yentz. And some of these I just skip over. Bert Crone, welcome, my friend. And Daniel Whalen. There's still creative life in Texas. All right, let's talk about creativity. In honor of your video with that old tree, would you be allowed to sit there and paint it? In your video with that old tree, would you be allowed to sit there and paint it? Yes, Donna, you would be allowed to do that. You could go out on there and take a picnic lunch. It costs you a few bucks to get in. It's a privately run 501c3. The state doesn't own it. Thank goodness. The family still owns it and runs it. They have a board of trustees in the Middleton. This used to be, let's just call it a Middleton plantation. Now it's called Middleton Place. They still talk about enslavement, and they still talk about the slaves that were kept there. And they talk about all that because, look, if you get rid of the history, we don't know where the heck we're supposed to go in the past. I don't know what's wrong with our country, but you go, let's get rid of that history. You're going like, well, the people that are saying that, we should say to them, just get rid of all your family history. And then one day you'll wake up and go, where did I come from? And the show Roots on TV, which is all about slaves anyway, they wouldn't know what to do if you got rid of all their history. They couldn't find it. They couldn't keep up with it. But we tend to want to do that. In this case, they've embraced who they were in the Southern South, and they have risen above it and said, in fact, some great things have spun off from this. There are 8 silver candlesticks. It sounds like a Les Mis story. There are 8 silver candlesticks on the table in the house. And they didn't have a lot of those when they opened it up to the public. And they put out a plea across America and said, if you were connected to this Middleton Place, the plantation back then, if you were a holder of one of the artifacts that some of them were taken by families and said, please care for this because the armies are coming in and there's fighting here during the Civil War, and everything will be either melted down or sold or stolen and taken out during this battle. And so some of these were even people who were enslaved there. And so the families took these and said, I clean these candlesticks for the people that I work for. And the people that I work for fed me. I wouldn't even have been here or had freedom now, or my family have freedom now had it not been for them. So there's 2 sides to this coin, and I'm not going to get into all that with you, but we love history enough to wander through it. And so They have a great little restaurant on the property. It's a lodge that you can just go eat there. And people are members. They'll come out there, and there's a market there, and there's artisans who are connected. In fact, one of the gentlemen who's a knife maker has taken the name Middleton because that was the only name that he knew, because he traced his family back to slavery. He's a blacksmith in Charleston and makes brilliant knives. And we wanted to look at his handmade knives, and they didn't have a whole lot in stock. And he really didn't have a brick and mortar. He makes them, and then he sells them online and through this. But his name is Middleton, and so beautiful handmade knives. I mean, some of them are $2,000 and $3,000 that go to top chefs in the country. Beautiful knives, and his family were blacksmiths on this plantation. So you can go there. You could take your art and sit and paint. You can do that. Be a beautiful thing to do. I'm going to run a video for you and just show you that. So if you have a question, just put QQQ, and in a minute I'll jump up there, or Q something. How was your dinner with the with the art law person? Yeah, that was kind of fun. You know, when it wasn't a dinner, I just met the person, and we haven't had them over from dinner yet, but we're going to. She's a young artist who's an art history major in Davidson College, which is just 30 minutes north of me. And so we invited her down, and I want to talk about art law just for fun and why that has intrigued her so. So I'll keep you posted on that. Still intrigued by that banana painted on the wall. Is it for sale? That banana painted on that wall is not for sale, because you would have to cut out a piece of the wall. It literally is painted on the drywall on the wall. But it's done by Robert Lange, Lange, or Lange, and my friends own a piece of his work here. Don't go away. And then we'll get into painting something here. I'd love to catch you up on these trips. I'm going to show you a little video, and then we're going to paint. This is Robert's brochure. If you want to see some of his crazy work, here it is right here. It's at, you got a pen? If you don't have a pen and you're watching an art show, you don't have to be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you. Okay, here we go. It's RLS Art. RLS Art. RLSart.com. Okay, he is an interesting bird. This guy, his quote is by Aristotle: "The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance." Aristotle said that. And so there's just going to be some interesting art. Photorealism, art realism, abstract, just crazy stuff. And then this quote on the back, the reason I took this brochure, it says, "Art belongs to everyone." And, it really does. You say, well, no, that's my piece of art. Yeah, but you put it on a wall where other people can share it, and you put it in your shop window, and you sell art, and you give art away. So art really does have a way that it belongs to people. And they go, it's like that tree that you were talking about, Donna. It's really beautiful. So that's the guy's art, right? His name is Robert Lange, Lange, and he has a studio on Queen Street. And so it's his studio. He paints out of there, and he just painted the banana on the wall. And I'm telling you, I have never seen a realism painting that I felt like I could just reach and rip that thing off the wall. It took all the restraint that I had, not from just putting my hand around it. And of course I couldn't have, because it's flat on the wall. The artist you talked to, Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. Kyle. I'm trying to think. Art law. Wow. Yeah, it was a busy weekend, and I'm not even a drinker, so I don't even remember. I'm trying to put my place on that. Okay. Love this guy here. Showed you some of his art. Oh, Kyle. I'm sorry. This is Kyle. No, Kyle was not the art law student. He was the painter that painted the art. The law student is a young lady. This is the guy that we loved his Venice paintings. This guy is remarkable if you want to look him up. And you can find him at Principal Gallery, or just find Kyle Stuckey, Stuckey. Don't put Stuckies on there, because you're going to get a pecan log somewhere, those of you who live in the South. Kyle Stuckey, just a phenomenal artist, okay? Uh, and I even read this quote the other day, which I thought was fabulous. I'm going to pin this on my wall for a while. I paint in the way I see my subject matter, trying to mimic the way the human eye sees. Not everything is in focus at one time. So when you're painting, find that place, that point you want the eye to be pulled into. And if you've ever had art classes, you know that that's what they do. They teach you to paint in thirds, and then they say, where's the eye going to enter? Where's the light? Where's the eye going to come in? And then what's going to pull the eye across this painting and back? Anyway, it's just fabulous. He was a master, a young man too, young man. All right, so thanks for those questions. I love it so much when you do that. Thank you. Just QQQ. I'll jump in every now and then and say that. So here's what I want to do. A couple things. I made a little note and I threw it away. Had a little note here that was going to tell me what I was going to do today. One is I'm going to paint a freebie to give away, and I think I'm going to paint something in ink. And then I really think that I went in some galleries that were not very pleasing to me. It's my opinion. I was there. I was the one that holds the camera, and I walked in and went, my friends were going to go, what is he thinking about this? And so I just didn't want to waste the video and your time. And so you have to go there on your own to look at some of that. If it's your style, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I did. I just did what I did. But my point is this. What happens sometimes is I felt like some artists just get involved in art because they think, hey, I'm going to get rich painting a big painting. And I don't know many stories that that's been true. I don't know. In fact, I can't think of any. My dad used to say, even a blind hog will find an acorn every now and then. And I think you do find an acorn. But I think it was his name Stanley Marcus? Stanley Marcus, who started Neiman Marcus. Is that right? He said that sometimes people get into a routine, and I preach routine. Okay, I do. What do I preach? I preach cup of tea, 20 minutes, change your style. But that's practice. That's playing the violin. That's getting better. I don't say start with the same color every time. I don't say always paint a bee, but I do paint a lot of bees. Always paint roosters, but that's my style and my story and my caricature. So that's why I do it. So there's a reason for those. So it's fine if you know what you're doing. But if you do the same routine all the time, if you drive the same way to work every time, if you use the same coffee cup every morning, which I kind of do, you might miss out on what makes other coffee cups more fun to use. And so why your hand needs to wrap around them. My point is this. I think it's this, is that if your routine is so driven that you can't see change, then that routine becomes your enemy. And so what I want you to do is sometimes you have to stop and you have to do different things. You have to read something different. You have to... So Stanley, you know who Stanley Marcus was? He was the founder of Neiman Marcus. And he would say, if I walk into a showroom in one of my shops when he first started, and I see the same furniture set in there week after week, month after month, year after year, I'm not inspired to change anything. So what I do is I change it all up. I put different colors with different things and put that table over there, move that chair over there, change the artwork out. And when I come in, I'm inspired in a different way. So when Carol and I go look at art, we look at all the art. There's some strikes our hearts like a boom, a blacksmith hammer. And there's some where we just go, whoa. And there's some where we think artists sometimes just got involved and they started doing heavy lifting before they did small lifting. Okay. And I think that's a whole nother story there of basically we should never start with heavy lifting first. That's why you paint quick and fast and find something that you can paint and be successful in and then branch out. That's just a style and that's a belief that I have. That's not, I'm teaching a class on how to do that. In fact, I think you shouldn't. I always say start with something small that you can manage and then grow into it, scale it up instead of starting with it's right there in the book, where I found this lady buying a 3 by 5 foot canvas saying, I'm going to paint something. Anyway, it's always fun to go there. And so I'm going to take 2 minutes and show you this video. And while I move this stuff, would you paint a woodpecker? I have painted two, but they're not my favorite because the detail involved is a little more than I want to put into a bird. And that's my style. But do I love them? I love wood hens. I love woodpeckers. I love the crested woodpecker. Yes, I probably would. But I and I could find some interesting things to say about them too, you know, right, like on the concrete wall. And so all that, that's a great question. Okay. All right, here we go. Some of you move things around and you try things here, you try things there, and that's how I really think you learn to find your style. Some of you that paint with me on Patreon, and tomorrow's our class of 90 minutes on Patreon, you dive deep and you are getting a feel for where your style lands, and you're going to do things with your art. You will. People are already going to be asking for it. And, ooh, I love that. And watch the comments. And you build a following of people who say, I love your style. I love your art. You know what they mean when they say they love your art? We like you and how you convey an idea that connects with them. Did you catch that? When people say they love your art, they like how you convey an idea that connects with them. That's storytelling. It's just storytelling in pictures. We were at Middleton Place with the Bush family, not Barbara and George, but some dear friends we've known for 37 years. Great stories with their family, and just, oh my gosh, all the years we've been around. And Taylor and I are about the same age, but his mom called and said, "You're going to Middleton Place? Can I go?" He said, "Yes." She's walking down this trail you'll see in the video. She's 85 and she outwalks me on the property. She is a storyteller par excellence. And I've known this for 20 years. We went to their house in Colquitt, Georgia one time, and I watched the studio process play that they put together called Swamp Gravy Stories, and it was off the charts beautiful. It's not produced anymore. It was just unbelievable, the stories that they kept up with in this community. And my dad's name was featured in this story and called out. And it just, when you hear that in that night of the people who've passed on as storytellers, it's just breathtaking. And so she was telling stories, and we were talking about how children today, and I say this so often, they get away from the arts. They get away from the art of drawing and sketching and watercolor painting and oil painting, and they get away from music, and they get away from the simple craft and art of storytelling because they're drawn to a machine or someone that brings in a story instead of you sharing the story over dinner or over a cup of tea. Or do you know how to make a cup of tea? Let me show you how to make a cup of tea. I tell my grandkids, let me see your backpack. And they say, I'm not wearing a backpack. And I say, oh, yeah, you are. They said, no, we're not. Look, they turn around and they go, oh, it's an imaginary backpack. Everybody has one. What do you have in yours? And they go, what do you mean? I said, what do you have in your imaginary backpack? You know, I don't know. And I go, oh, we have to solve this right now. I'm getting a piece of paper. So I'll grab a piece of paper and a pen and say, what do you got in your imaginary backpack? Okay, listen, I'm going to set up some guidelines. Not rules, but guidelines. It's something you know well. It's something you know how to do. It's something you generally love how to do. It's something you love to share with other people. It's something you like to give away. It's all in there. It's in your imaginary backpack. Give us an example. They're still scratching their heads. And I go, biscuits. I love biscuits. I love to find biscuit recipes. I love to try biscuit recipes. I love to make new biscuits. I love to eat new biscuits. I like fresh biscuits. I have developed in my own mind between the Hot Kelly's Hot Biscuits and Dana's Biscuits with cream of tartar. I've developed the recipe that I'll change it a little bit with buttermilk, but I know I'm going to love this biscuit. And I know how to make it. I don't have to get a recipe out. I know the flour. I know the buttermilk. I know the butter, whether it's cold and grated or frozen and grated or whether it's room temp. I know what I'm going to make when I make it. And all that's in this imaginary backpack. I know that's in there. I know all these old songs that are down in there. So when someone speaks to me, I'll sing it back to them in a song. I sent out 2 songs this morning that came to my mind like that. My point is that kids forget to carry this imaginary stuff. Where do they learn that? They learn that through the values of you and the storytelling from your family. So I'm off on a tangent today. I've done a half hour just rattling around. Great Scott. Look at this. Teresa Marie Clegg Salvio says, all the children I babysat when I was younger are adults now remember me coloring or painting with them in memories of me. Come on. And don't you love this when this happens? And so you just make it happen like that. There's a story of Walt Disney who was painting flowers one time, and his teacher says, Walter, they called him Walter, flowers don't have faces. And he says, mine do. How do you argue with something like that? And then how would you argue with Walt Disney if he were still alive today? You couldn't. So love the routine and discipline. Love the discipline, if that's a routine, of practicing and sketching and doing something in the arts every day. Don't like it to be your enemy when you just stay within the box and you never change. How do you push yourself outside? You visit places like Middleton and you just sit there for a few minutes and you look at the tree I'm getting ready to show you. Or you go see what other artists have done and you see what you like, what you love, what you don't like, what you really don't like. And you learn from that. And you sit down with different styles of paper and pens and paint and little palettes and big palettes and brushes and short and long brushes. How did I ever find that I love Japanese brushes? I tell you, I saw a Japanese artist paint and I went, I'll never do that, but I bet I could use this for my style. The reason I would never do it is because I didn't want the routine of 2 years of learning how to make a Japanese letter and that I couldn't read or my friends couldn't read. It would have been different had I been steeped in that culture. But I loved the process. I loved the hold of the brush, the push, the pull, the swirl, the bend and fold. I loved all that. So that got me into these. That's how Yasutoma found me. They said, is that your hand? We think that's one of our brushes. And I said, I definitely recognize the hand. Yes, I think it's your brush. And so we became friends. And I got it from Cheap Joe's. Really funny. All right, here we go. Sketching on, I'm hooked on sketching lilacs lately. I love that, Becky. Okay, so here we go. I want to show you this. Let me show you this. Did I even put this in a, new scene? Here it is right here. This is 2 minutes of a wander about with some music on Middleton Place. Remember, Civil War came through, burned down one of the houses, another one crumbled. They took art out of one and stole it. Some of the art has come back to the house. I couldn't shoot pictures in there. The gardens now have been formed. There's 2 butterfly gardens. They call them the butterfly gardens. There's the lakes are shaped like the wings, and it's all tilled down. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Here we go. Gene says, I'm in a new place for 2 weeks. I'm going out exploring today, find new paint and sketch. I think that's fantastic. Cheryl, I think that's fabulous. Cheryl Johnson says Garrison Keeler's powdered milk biscuits from those dairy farmers up there. Oh, I love it. Great storyteller. All right. Hey, Ricky, glad to be on the show. TikTok Jones, welcome to you this morning. Here we go. Take a look at this video. This is where I was, and then I'll paint something, I promise.
Take a look at this. Wow. Nathan, I'm thinking of you. Here's the motley crew that I'm hanging out with today. Oh my gosh. See what I mean?
Can you imagine when that tree had those 4 extra limbs on it, or 3 more that came out? And those limbs, I couldn't have reached around them like this. You're going to realize they were 7 to 8 feet above my head where they came out. And so they were about 7.5 feet at the start. That's bigger than most trees, and those limbs came out. Those were removed. This tree is 1,000 years old, they think, 900 to 1,000 years old. It would have been a witness to the time that Columbus sailed. Native Americans who were here. Fabulous, just the whole concept. And this is a live oak. It's the Quercus virginiana. That's the Latin name for live oak. And absolutely just a phenomenal tree of what it's seen and what it's witnessed out on the Ashley River. And that's the Ashley River. So, yeah, you can sit up there and paint that. It's just that one limb that just blows out there. And so just fantastic. I just kept going. I want to go back and just stand at that tree for a while, because there's just so many gorgeous trees there. And you think back, this tree has been here for 900 to 1,000 years, and they've figured that out. The people who come and care for this now, just from the ring count on the limbs that had to come down, and a hurricane. It's weathered hurricanes and tornadoes, and there was an earthquake that actually came in there and shook one of the houses down. And anyway, it's just crazy stuff. All right. Love being with you guys today. Wanted you to see that again. It's just been a real fun time, and I wanted to throw some creative things at you now. And so let's go. If you're going to start painting a field of flowers, start with the bug first. So don't do all the heavy lifting at once. Start with some petals first. And let me just do a little painting today for a free painting. And I think I just want to do one in kind of ink. I just felt like doing some ink today. So I'm going to so I don't make too big a mess with a clean white shirt on. I'm going to put that there and put this paper over here to the side. This is Kilimanjaro, 140 pound, bright white, 140% cotton. There it is right there. Cold pressed, made in the lovely land of England. All right, so here we go. But I think what I want to do is just grab some of this, and this is really not ink as much as carbon black watercolor. So I'm going to try it today. And let's just see what happens. I think I'm going to sketch this. This is one of the roos that I love to do. That just is kind of in a little bit of my Asian style with those brushes, and I took the lid off that, so I got to be very careful. Here we go. This kind of want to do here. I'm going to put his head coming back this way, just like this. Then I'm going to change pens on you. I'm going to go with this bigger pen if it's writing. If it's not, I'm going to be sad because I didn't try it this morning before I came on the show. There it is right there. I like this rooster who's can't paint this without thinking of my dad. Just every time. It's just really crazy. He goes, you know what a rooster's doing when he's standing on one foot? I'd say, no, Dad, what? He says, he's holding the other one up, son. You got to figure out life. It's simple. Oh, my gosh. That guy was a trip. All right. So here we go. I woke up thinking, I'm going to do a little black and white today. Maybe just touch a little bit of this bamboo brush right here. Let me pick up this number. What is this? A number 1? Yep, there's a number 1. I love to paint with Yasutoma number 1s. Just drop in some water here, just like this. Maybe a little back here like this. Love it how it's coming in there. Just so. Yeah, so consider visiting a museum this year or some art galleries and just going in and tell the local people that you appreciate their effort. Say, hey, you know what? Thank you for having a gallery. Thank you for having a museum where we can come and look and study and talk and share things. And make sure you're Get to know those people a little bit. Find out what's coming up. All right, here we go. Watch this. I just love it when this happens. You ready? We'll drop it from way up here so you might can see it. Let's see. No, I'll drop it with my left hand so you can see it. Here we go. Here we go. And see how well that works? Didn't work worth a flop, did it? Here we go. There it comes. It's going to fall. Maybe. There it goes. All right. I thought I was going to get more of a drop on that, but I didn't. So I had to shake it pretty hard. I forgot I was not using ink all of a sudden. I forgot I was using watercolor. Black carbon liquid watercolor. I want some of this right in here to show some of this bump. Might add just a touch of color in here, but I'm not going to do much more than that. As a matter of fact, what happens here is I'm letting this spider web out and mushroom into this, but I'm also just going to let this water really temper that and create that grayscale in there that I kind of like and love. Love it, love it, love it. I haven't done this in a while, so it's kind of fun to do this. One of my favorite little paintings, though, that I like to go to sometimes just for a change. And I'm going to turn this over and face me, and I'm being very careful here not to get it to run any more than it needs to. I want to keep those holidays in there, but this makes it easier for me to paint if I just turn it upside down, add a little water in here, and just get some of this Joe's Red, which is mixed with Hot Mama. Throw in some little red right there, and I'm leaving some spikes in that I don't want to fill all the way in either. So, I pushed you folks early on Patreon into class to do some ink paintings, and we're going to probably throw one more of these in tomorrow in our 90 minutes. I'm going to just give you a couple little ideas on how I make this kind of work a little bit. Ooh, don't you just love that? And then let's create a little bit of, over here in my pan, I always have one little pocket that's kind of mixed for me. And I'm using a small little rigger brush, which is a little small, but I wanted to do that because I wanted it to be a little stringier and just not fill it up. And I didn't want to bring a whole lot of water in because remember, I used a bold fountain pen and it'll bleed on this paper. And so I didn't want these legs to turn too dark. But this little rigger brush, this is a #1 rigger, R-I-G-G-E-R. It's made for fine line painting, and then I'm just going to grab another little brush here. Where's my, just pick up a little green before I go in here and attack these lines because they're going to bleed. So I want some green already on my brush. Those are just things you have to know to practice. You have to practice to know both types. If I'd have gone and put my water in here first, it would have turned dark like this, and I wouldn't have been able to capture some of that. And I would have liked this better had I not spun it around, but I did, and there's some ink coming down right here that I want to just bring in a little black right there. There we go. All right, I like the way that's working. Then I'm going to go in here, pick up some of this. All right, so there we go. That's a cool little rooster. I like him. I like him very much. Not too much to it. How long did that take? Oh my gosh, about 4.5 minutes. So when you hear me say start with light lifting instead of heavy lifting, you don't have to move all the furniture out of the house to just change something. You might just take a plant and put it in a different place. You might just take a painting and hang it on a different wall. You might just paint something with a different color one day, and that might inspire you to say, hey, and I'm going to tell you a flower story. But it might get you to change the flowers. I'm visiting with a dear friend of mine, Maddie. She's the daughter of the family we were with, but she lives in Nashville, and she runs Amelia's Flower Trucks out of Nashville. If you've ever been to Nashville and you go to White's Mercantile, you'll see one of her 1967 Samba VW buses. And her dad and I actually designed the flower rack in the back of that when she had this crazy idea. She came back from Paris and said, everybody's doing food trucks, and I did that for 2 years, but I want a flower truck. like brilliant. And so we used flower buckets, and we did some ideas that were pretty smart at the time. And I think we stumbled on a couple of them, but the way we did it. And so she said, I think I want to start some flowers in Charlotte sometimes. And I said, well, there's an old flower shop here. She said, what do you mean old? And she said, wait, don't answer that question. She says, is it old thinking or old design? Are you with me here? Listen to this. And I said, okay, Maddie's 37. Maybe. I said, both. And she said, but don't answer me again. I want to look at it. And she looked and she said, oh, you're right. It's old design. And I said, did you guess this? Because in the vase that they had, there is no space. There is a flower in every micro little inch of it, just jammed in there, and just like, it looked like a soccer ball that had been painted with flowers. And she said, yes. And she said, look what our people come by to design for themselves. She showed me this little vase and these wispy flowers coming out in every direction. She says, there's a lot of space in between here. We call this, and I said, don't tell me you call it loose. She said, yes. And I said, we call those spaces in between holidays. And she goes, oh, what a great name for those spaces. And then we talked a little bit, and she said, it's harder to do loose than tight, because it's easy just to keep filling things in, but it's harder just to put the brush down and say, I'm done with that. Everything in my being wants me to continue to fill in some more yellow here and bring this in and put another color in there and do this. And so I'm fighting the temptation right now as I reach over here and I get a color, and you can't imagine what color I'm getting, as some of you will. And I'm going to put it right here. And that's it. This little piece of Terry Tardy turquoise hanging right there. And so, I think in flowers, in art, you got to be loose, and I think you can see that it stays relevant. And so that's one of the things that I'm learning as I get older. I'm learning to listen better as a consultant. Early on, I wasn't too well. How do you do Maddie's Flower Shop? Karen Bender is in Nashville right now. Go to, you walk up to the truck, and they'll arrange your own, they'll let you arrange your own things. And so it is Mattie. Maddie is her name. How do you know Maddie's Flower Shop? Or it's there's two of them there in Nashville, and she also has a couple brick and mortars in Nashville. But one is at White's Mercantile out toward Franklin, and it's just a phenomenal thing. She's known the world over right now for this crazy design. And in 2016, on a snow icy day here in Charlotte, her father and I built the entire rack system for all those flowers, and it was just such fun to do. And she's an entrepreneur who came back and doesn't know anything about flowers, and now she does, but she knows about design. So it's been a fun thing. So if you're in Nashville, look it up, and you may or may not see her. All right. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just scroll down, up and down on here, and do it a couple times. And boom, 1, 2, 3, like this, all the way up. I'm going to look over here, all the way down, all the way up, spin it, one touch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pick 3 names. My mind will see 3 names. I'll see 3, my eyes will see 3 names. I want top, bottom, and then I'll take the one in the middle. And it is Gay Gruff. Kayegruff. On one side is Donna Buckley. On the other side is Nancy Catlin. How about that? Those are the names I see on my scroll here. Kayegruff. It says, good morning, groom. I think that's supposed to be from, unless you just married the state, but I love that. Buna, B-U-N-A, Texas. So, Kay, if you're still on the show, send me an email at roodoodles@gmail.com. I'm going to scribble your name right here on the bottom of this. K Gruff, Gruff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sign this, Roodoodles. Well, look at that. Put some detail in these little toes here. And a little recap of the show for a couple minutes, and here it is. Do light lifting before you do heavy lifting. Okay, Stanley Marcus from Neiman Marcus, who said, "Hey," or no, he said routine, didn't he? Yeah, he said. He said routine is great, and repetition is different than routine. Repetition is learning to do something. Routine is just doing it the same way all the time. Every now and then, enhance it a little bit. Change your colors around it. Rearrange your furniture. Read a book, a magazine. Find another art magazine that's not in your style and look at it and see what people do. Go to an art gallery. Go to a museum. Go sit out in front of a big tree and just sketch one section of it. Just sketch the moss hanging down. Just sketch a bird on the tree. Learn the name of the tree. Learn the Latin name of the tree. Learn why it's indigenous to where it is, what zone it's in. And that sounds silly, but it'll help you in your historical approach to it. Same with flowers. Don't just paint a rose. Paint a rose that you know what it is. Are they wild roses? Are they this rose or that rose or any other rose that you might come up with? Okay. And don't somebody quote me and say, "Hey, a rose by any other name is just a rose." Let's see. Kay, if you send me an email at roodoodles@gmail.com with your address, it's KAYE. Send me an email, roodoodles@gmail.com. Once this dries, I'll send it to you. It's the first of the month. I have to do that. Okay. All right. So have a blessed day. For those of you who are on Patreon, I'll see you here tomorrow at 8:57, and be prepared. We're going to dig in. We're going to talk about summer sketching because we're talking about that. We're going to talk about having a journal, have something in your hand. I'm going to pick up on this, but I'm going to push you with a list that you can go do for the next month this summer, in the heat, in the cold, in somewhere. Okay, and then a little bit of ink, a little bit of color goes a long way. All right. I think I just constantly want to remind you to encourage everybody as you go through this world. Make sure your art connects in some form or fashion, and it will do good for your heart. I'm just telling you, it will. Take a moment right now, and I'm looking at my wall over here. Take a sip. Encourage someone today. I sent out 4 texts this morning, and I think I felt better about them than maybe the people who get them feel about. And that's weird, but I thought, I'm not doing this because I'm a know-it-all. I'm doing this because I want them to know that I'm thinking of them. And so that's really fun. In fact, I even sent a couple songs to one of them Spotify account and said, I want you to hear this song today because it inspired me in 1997 and 98 when the wheels were coming off of a project that I was on and I just needed something. And I had lunch with this artisan at the time, and he was playing that night at an event, and Carol and I we stood on the front row and we heard him sing this song, and I went, this is what I needed today. It filled my soul in a magical way that only art can do. And I shared it with him today. He's going through a change after 35 years in the same job, and life's changed, and it does. It moves on. So don't be afraid of the change. Let's go. Don't be afraid to tell good stories. And if you can't tell a good story, and if you don't know how to tell a good story, when you get to the end and your grandkids are going like, where is this going? Just say, if you know you've done a pretty poor job, just say, and then I found $20. I love it. All right, bring in the turtles. Oh, Pat's already got them up there. Then I'm looking over this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, make a difference in somebody's life today. I'm going to give this painting away. And does that make a difference in their whole life? No, but it's fun to get something. And it's the first of the month, and I've been doing it since I started painting. Just give it out. Thanks for liking my page. Hey, thanks for sharing my page. And share my page with somebody else that didn't even know about it today. That's very arrogant of me, but in a way, just say, hey, you got to listen to this guy. Every now and then he might, every now and then a blind hog finds an acorn. Got a busy day today. Man, but I love it. And I'll tell you more about my Friday night. The whole thing that I'm doing with this prison event, where owning this friend of mine who now and his board own a prison. I'm going to be speaking at the event Friday night in a local restaurant with some representatives and some NASCAR people and all kinds of folks, and I'm going to be asking them for a lot of money to help keep 1 million kids out of jail, out of prison. Sounds like a fun thing, huh? 1 million. Yeah, why not? Go big or go home. All right. Blessings to you all. Been fun being with you. Thank you, Judith. The show wouldn't be a show if you guys didn't jump on. Let's go crow a little. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So be blessed. I'm out of here like a herd of turtles. I was just in South Carolina, so I felt like it was only proper to do a song about Alabama.